did what in the murder of young Dolph? Now, just last night, we broke that there was a third arrest. Tonight, we are looking into which roles police say each actually played.
Johnson and Cornelius were the hitmen.
Justin Johnson and Cornelius Smith are, we allege, the two shooters. They are the people that are captured on the video that was released publicly a while back showing the actual shooting.
And Govan was the person calling the hit.
The new indictment, the new suspect, Mr. Govan, we allege, was the person who put the hit out on young Dolph.
Justin Johnson's brother DeMarcus was also charged as an accomplice who apparently helped Justin when he was laying low. As the suspects were arrested, more news came out about young Dolph's death. Although young Dolph was killed during Thanksgiving, the plan was devised in June 2021. Thanksgiving was probably a time they knew that young Dolph would be back in Memphis, as he came back every year to hand out free turkeys to underprivileged people. Why Govan called out a hit on young Dolph remains to be seen, and not a lot of this adds up. Govan was not some notorious gang leader in Memphis, nor was he known for having any grudge or vendetta on Dolph. This is why some people suggest that these three men did not act alone, and possibly a gang was involved. And because of the three other persons of interest, the number of people involved suggested that this was a gang-related crime. While Johnson and Smith were locked away, Taylor was someone connected to the death who was still out on the streets. But because he was connected to the murder of young Dolph, he was suddenly a target, and it didn't take long until they found this target.
A person of interest in young Dolph's murder has now also been killed. Family members confirmed Joshua Taylor was found shot and killed in Orange Mound yesterday afternoon, leaving that community on edge as they worry who might be next.
News reports stated that he was shot and died almost immediately afterward. At 12:56 p.m., officers responded to a man-down call at Spotswood near Bunton. A male was located separately from gunshot wounds and was pronounced deceased at the scene. There's no suspect information at this time. This is an ongoing investigation.
Those close to the case tell us Taylor is part of a group, the same group linked to the suspects charged in connection with Dolph's murder.
News outlets looked into Taylor's background and found some previous criminal charges. Taylor had a number of outstanding warrants, including theft of property between $10,000 and $60,000 and possession of a prohibited weapon. But if you look away from mainstream outlets and see what other sources on the internet are saying, things get pretty interesting. Taylor was apparently involved with the Trella Mafia, a prominent gang in Memphis. Some sources even allege that Teasy was the leader of this gang.
Teasy was the head of Trella Mafia. Do y'all understand what that means? That means if anybody that's in Trula got anything to do with young Dolph's death, Justin Johnson. Teasy at the end of the day gives the okay.
In fact, there was a rapper called J Money Trula who even had a song with young Dolph called Take My Life. However, J Money Trula was killed in 2016. Later on, his brother D Money was also killed. And the person who killed D Money is allegedly a rapper named Uncle Danny. And Uncle Danny got signed by young Dolph. I use the word allegedly a lot here. An interesting Facebook exchange happened after young Dolph's death between someone and the mother of J Money. This person wrote, J Money would have had these streets crying about Dolph. To which J Money's mother replies, he shall didn't cry about him or D Money. He signed D Money. Killer. She was then asked about this and she responded, yelp the Uncle Danny that he just signed, with another message reading facts. There is no evidence of young Dolph dissing Trella Mafia and drawing any drama onto himself. However, signing this particular rapper could be the reason why he was taken out. Dolph either did not know about this or looked at this as a business decision. And it's not 100% clear that Joshua Taylor's death is connected with the death of young Dolph, but his death is consistent with gang culture and their mentality of drawing an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. If you're a fan of drill music, chances are you've heard of the O Block in Chicago, which is the neighborhood where the likes of Chief Keef, Neil Reese, and King Von grew up. But you won't find the O Block on Google Maps. This is the area where the O Block gang are from, which is named after its former member, O.D. Perry. Perry was believed to be killed by Gakira Barnes, who was a hired assassin for the Gangster Disciples, and there are mixed opinions as to how many people she shot. According to the Chicago Sun-Times, Barnes, who kept a stack of newspaper stories about her friends slain in street violence, was a suspect in 3 to 5 shootings, including at least one murder. Talk on the street put the number of shootings much higher, at least 15. But the reason why she was instructed to kill O.D. Perry is because he was allegedly the killer of another gang member named Tuka. So what we have have is an endless cycle of violence where if one gang member is killed, then a life needs to be taken from the opposing gang too, and so on. But another important example is what happened to the rapper FBG Duck, whose real name is Carlton Weekly. During this time, he was one of the most prominent members of the O Block, which made him a target. According to the Chicago Sun-Times, Black Disciples Street Gang had offered up $50,000 to anyone that killed Weekly, and later raised the bounty to $100,000, according to the police records. This meant that the Black Disciples could outsource the hit instead, and people who were neutral to both sides might even take out a hit for the cash. And moving back to Joshua Taylor, we can only speculate. Taylor was a member of the gang who took out Young Dolph, so it looks like a revenge kill. And not only was he a member, he was the leader. So this could have been a chess move by the opposing gang who wanted to really get their own back. And according to this source, the biggest revenge for Young Dolph's allies was to take Teezy out of the way.
So at the end of the day, getting Teezy out the way is worth more than even getting the actual killer out the way. Because if it weren't for you, who is it? You see what I'm saying?
But with the main kingpin gone, the others are still in danger. In fact, another one of them was already attacked. The invisible acts of vendetta.
Run down, short-staffed, and more dangerous than the most notorious jail in our whole country.
These are the words used to describe Fulton County Jail, the prison where Young Dolph's alleged killers will be staying. And even as prisons go, it ain't a nice place. But what makes prison life that extra bit tougher for them is when you are a famous face, which is certainly the case for Young Dolph's killers. For many people, prison is a time to keep your head down, stay out of trouble, and do your time. But when you are the accused killer of a famous rapper, this will inevitably draw attention. And when you are in a Memphis prison and accused of killing Young Dolph, you better believe that you will become a target. Mixing them with the regular inmates could be a death sentence of its own. Both Justin Johnson and Cornelia Smith don't seem to have bond or bail granted to them, meaning that they will be in prison until their trial starts in March 2024. Between the two, Johnson has been getting more attention, mainly because the internet found out that he was also an up-and-coming rapper named Straight Drop. Not many people had heard of Straight Drop prior to his arrest, and he looks to be making the best of a bad situation. After his incarceration, he released the song No Statements, which he seems to have rapped onto a prison payphone and got someone on the other side to record it. As well as being a rapper, he was also convicted of sexual assault in 2015, which is something that may also make him into a target. 2 months into his arrest, he learned that some of the inmates were not impressed by his behavior. According to TMZ, he was on a phone call in prison when a reportedly came up to him and punched him in the face. Johnson was not seriously injured, but a sign that he is not safe, even within protected prison walls. It is not clear whether Johnson had any bruises or scars afterward. If you have visible injuries on your face, the prison guards will inevitably ask, what happened? Telling the officers what happened has its advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that the police might separate you from the inmates because they might think that you are a security risk. The disadvantage is that you will be labeled a snitch, which in the long run could make things much worse for yourself. As to who punched him and why, we can only speculate. Being the killer of Young Dolph will not make you popular in a Memphis prison, but there could be other reasons too. People will know now that he is a member of the Tulsa Mafia, and rival gangs might want to make an example of him. To give you an example of how these gangs operate in prison, let's take a look further east of Memphis to Atlanta. As you probably already know, there is an ongoing feud going on between Young Thug's YSL gang and Lucci's YFN gang, and this has made its way from the streets of Atlanta to inside its prisons too. A fairly gruesome video went viral of one particular gang member. On April 11th, a video was seen with one YSL member fighting a YFN member. The YFN member was tied up to a prison toilet while he took his beating. Then the YSL member takes out a razor blade and tries to scrape the gang member's crew tattoo off his face. It is a video too gruesome for YouTube, and I would not recommend watching it. The fact that he was trying to strip him of his own gang tattoo suggests that this could be gang-related and not a personal dispute between the two. There are so many sinister aspects of this attack, particularly the fact that the attacker wanted to film what he was doing and send a message. While you would think that prisons would separate possible targets from prison gangs, this is not always the case. Along the West Coast, there is another chilling example of prison violence. The rapper Money Sign Swede was a relatively successful rapper in LA, to the extent that he was ready to move out of the hood that he lived in. In order to put the hood lifestyle completely behind him, he turned himself into prison and hoped to serve a sentence which would clear all of the charges against him. However, things were not that easy. As a rapper, they saw him as a target. He wrote a letter to his girlfriend while in prison and basically showed signs that he was essentially living in fear. He wrote, "My people said I'm good, but anything could happen. It's a cold world out there. All I can do is hope, wish, and pray for the best. I should be good, but the hate is real. Several days after this letter was sent, the prison guards on his ward were doing a head count and noticed that he was missing from his cell.
Jaime Valdez, also known as a rapper Money Sign Suede, killed while being held at the State Correctional Training Facility in Soledad. Officers with the Department of Corrections say that they discovered the 22-year-old had been stabbed in the shower after he was unaccounted for during a routine count.
Prison officials said he had injuries consistent with a homicide, and Moneyside's lawyer went to say they said it was a stabbing to the neck, and they said they're investigating. And by now you're probably thinking that this does not bode well for Hernandez Govan, the person who supposedly ordered the hit. However, in May 2023, Hernandez Govan was allowed to leave prison on a bond. This outraged a lot of the public. According to Tennessee state law, every person accused of a crime is entitled to bail until convicted, unless they are involved in a capital offense case, where the death penalty is on the table. Clearly, this murder was not seen as enough to warrant the death penalty. Furthermore, the bond only cost him $90. For many, this was a suspiciously low price for someone accused of orchestrating first-degree murder. When delivering the bond, Judge Lee Coffey said something interesting. He stated, the state has more clearly determined the role that the defendant played in the alleged conspiracy, and safety and medical concerns exist that militate in favor of alternative custody arrangements for the defendant. The fact that he mentioned that safety is an issue could mean that Govan is at risk behind bars. While Govan's bond might be ordered, there are two other important pieces of information you need to know about. Firstly, he is on house arrest and can only leave his house for medical emergencies or speaking with his attorney. And secondly, and most importantly of all, the family of young Dolph stands behind the state's recommendations on these actions, and they are the ones who matter the most in this trial. During Govan's court appearances, the new reporter made an interesting observation about his uniform.
You see the red shirt Govan is wearing? It is because he, along with others charged in this very high-profile case, are having to be kept away from the general population in lockup.
Another suspect, Jamarcus Johnson, Justin's brother, has been released on a bond too, but he was merely an accessory to the crime more than anything else.
This is your captain speaking.
So it will be interesting to see if this will require him to testify during the trial. Another person at risk, who might not have anything to do with the murder at all, is Yo Gotti. Gotti was considered young Dolph's rival, which led many to believe that he was involved in Dolph's killing. And as I'll get into later on, there are some suspicious things that may or may not connect him to the murder. And this might be the reason as to why something happened outside Gotti's restaurant in Memphis earlier this year. In the parking lot, shots were suddenly heard, resulting in 5 victims. One person was pronounced dead, while another died in hospital. The other 3 survived, but 40 bullets had apparently been shot at the scene of the crime. Coincidentally, this restaurant closed down in 2021 in the aftermath of young Dolph's death. It was initially rumored that this place was attacked at this time, but that was not the case. The big question is whether you can connect Yo Gotti to Trilla Mafia and the people connected with young Dolph's death. So let's get into it. Young Dolph's death. Before young Dolph's death, he appeared on the Drink Champs podcast. During the episode, Noah pretty much predicted Dolph's death.
History of our rappers are starting to die in our own city. So which means our city, love your city.
That ain't got nothing to do with me.
Yeah, no, but be careful, be careful. Because most of the hate in the world comes from people that's just like you, so just be careful.
Dolph had grown to become a legend in Memphis, but someone who came up long before him was Yo Gotti. In 2014, Gotti offered a record deal to Dolph, a deal which Dolph would turn down. Gotti was not insulted or outraged by this, but it does cause some tension, and this was only going to build from here on in. It's difficult to imagine what has been happening behind the scenes, but 2 years later, Dolph disses Gotti on Twitter. He wrote, "Y'all went from being my #1 fan and wanting to sign me to being my biggest hater." A few days later, Dolph coincidentally named his album King of Memphis. Yo Gotti had repeatedly referred to himself as the King of Memphis, so this was Dolph's way of saying that he had now taken the throne. This decision to name his album King of Memphis set the internet on fire, but this is something that Dolph would later downplay. He clarified that he was not the King of Memphis's, but a King of Memphis's.
King of Memphis, not the King of Memphis. Like, all of my partners king. Everybody that hang with me, all my partners, like, everybody having some paper, everybody caked up.
However, this interpretation of calling himself King of Memphis was not shared by a rapper named Black Youngster, who was closely affiliated with Yo Gotti. In a now deleted Instagram video, Black Youngster addressed Dolph and said, "Dolph, you a soft. If you got a problem, say you got a problem." He then said, "You ain't even no King of Memphis. He ain't from the city. This is in reference to the fact that Dolph was born in Chicago and moved to Memphis when he was a child. In another social media post, the tension was turned up a notch. Youngstar wrote, "When I see that young Dolph, I'ma smack the shit out of him all my life." It was clear that these things could get violent. To show he was serious, Black Youngstar posted another video, which showed himself and his crew carrying guns and roaming through Dolph's neighborhood. During this time, many people believed that Black Youngstar was simply a soldier following commands, and that Yo Gotti was calling the shots behind the scenes. In an interview with UK DJ Tim Westwood, Gotti was asked about Black Youngstar's video, and Gotti gave a very mixed response. He said, "Real homie on the team, so I'm going to always give him the proper advice that I believe I should give him from like a big brother standpoint, or just being a homie standpoint. My advice, you know I don't move like that. I'm going to always tell, not only him, but any youngin, don't handle your business like this." And Dolph was not intimidated by these antics. He called out both Gotti and Youngstar and posted on Instagram, "First thing first, everybody know it's you, Ho Gotti. Dad's sending your artist out to say the lame shit he been saying and doing. I guess you still mad because I didn't ever sign with you. Or is you still in your feelings because you fell out with Gucci Mane and you was mad at me because I kept rocking with Gucci?" Youngster responded with a diss track titled Shake Soon, and specifically referenced how Dolph was nowhere to be found when he turned up at his hood. He rapped, "Busting on you in your own hood, boy, you a no-show." All of these events mainly happened in March 2016, and by September, Black Youngstar said that this beef had been quashed and it was all in the past. Youngstar even said that Gotti liked Young Dolph too, but it seems that Young Dolph either did not accept the olive branch, or things happened behind the scenes that kept the feud aflame. In February 2017, Dolph released the song Play With Me, which included the lyrics, "Don't play with me, Ho Gotti, you a whole man. You went from my biggest fan to my biggest hater, begging me to sign with you, but I had too much paper." Gotti's response was short. Instead of a back and forth of diss tracks, he said that he had more important things to do. He tweeted, "I'm business partners with Mareed and Jay-Z," and blah blah blah. Dolph later explained that Gotti had been sneak dissing him on songs, so he decided to call him out. According to Dolph, his last two mixtapes, he's trying to sneak diss Dolph. "It's like you playing. You want to play? I ain't gonna play how you want to play. We gonna play how I want to play. I'm gonna expose you. Facts on top of facts." You don't know how to respond, because there ain't no response. Yo Gotti put out a song, but at the same time, did not really take the bait either. He released a song called Don't Beef With Me, which took aim at people trying to beef with him for clout. Dolph's response was to release a video for the song Play With Me, which featured a Yo Gotti lookalike. A day after this video was released, things got very, very real. In Charlotte, North Carolina, Dolph was driving his car. He was due to watch a basketball game later that night and perform alongside Migos and 21 Savage when a shooter approached him. Shots fired relentlessly at his vehicle, with passers-by hearing bullets shot around 100 times. While this would be enough to kill any man, young Dolph's SUV contained bulletproof glass, and he drove away unscathed. Dolph replied on Twitter with "You loose." When the police looked into the shooting, there was an odd coincidence. The van used to trap and shoot Dolph was rented, and the person who rented this vehicle was none other than Black Youngstar. Youngstar turned himself in to plead his innocence. He said, "I'm going to get to the bottom of a lot of it, but once I beat this case." People talk and try to put it together and make it up, but at the end of the day, I know for a fact that everybody is going to be looking crazy as hell when it is all over with. And in September that year, they had their second chance. Dolph was walking outside of Shoe Palace near the intersection of Hollywood and Highland when someone fired shots.
Breaking news, a shooting at a popular tourist spot in Hollywood. Tonight, a rapper is in critical condition.
An update was given on young Dolph.
He is in critical condition, according to the LAPD, but not life-threatening injuries. He apparently is either still in surgery or about to get out of surgery after being shot numerous times in the upper body right across the street.
The news reporter is then hesitant to say why he was shot.
And they say it could go connected to a feud that rap groups are having, the feud that goes all the way back to February.
And this connection did not come from anywhere. The Lowe's Hotel in Hollywood had two famous guests staying at their hotel, young Dolph and Gotti. They were conveniently staying at the same hotel when this happened. LAPD named Gotti as a person of interest in the shooting, but a day later, they said that Gotti was no longer connected to the crime. The police did charge someone with the shooting of young Dolph. His name was Corey McClendon, and he was actually an associate of Gotti's. However, like before, these charges were dropped a day later. As of September 2017, there was no tangible evidence that the beef between Gotti and Dolph was still going on, but young Dolph still had haters. In 2021, Dolph was back in Memphis for Thanksgiving and was about to appear at a function where turkeys are given out to the less privileged. And while he went into his local bakery to get some cookies, he was once again ambushed by shooters. He would not be so lucky this time around, and he was tragically killed. And as I should probably point out, there is no direct link between Gotti and this murder. even after the suspects of this killing were found. What we have is a lot of indirect links, and I'll let you make your own mind up. The weakest link made is that Cornelius Smith is the cousin of Adria Smith, a.k.a. Lil Migo, who was signed to Black Youngstar's Heavy Camp label. But this isn't confirmed, and both of them have the most common surname in the English language. This is an incredible stretch to connect them. A better connection lies in a person named Shondale Barnett, who, as I mentioned earlier, is a person of interest. He is believed to have been an accessory to the crime in the murder of young Dolph, purely because he was aware of Justin Johnson's fugitive status and didn't alert the police. It's fair to say that he and Justin Johnson know each other. Well, some YouTube channels are pulling up this reasonably convincing image of Shondale Barnett holding a gun in a music video, and this was the video for a song by Black Youngstar, so I can't 100% confirm that this is Shondale Barnett in that video, but it certainly looks a lot like him. But the most convincing piece of evidence is this photo of Govan. In one of the photos, we see Govan in a photo with a man named Big Juke, and in the other part, we see Big Juke in a photo of Gotti. The connection is that Juke is Gotti's brother. This might be too big a coincidence to ignore. On the other side of things, there are some things that have led fans to believe that Gotti is 100% innocent. First of all, Gotti and Dolph's public beef ended in 2017, and as the old saying goes, time heals all wounds. But the most interesting thing has been Gotti's response to Dolph's death. We are used to drill rappers being nothing but disrespectful when one of their enemies passes away. But Gotti's behavior was quite dignified and respectful. He actually delayed the release of his new album because of young Dolph's death. With the trial coming out in 2024, who knows what information will come out. And hopefully, the tragedy of young Dolph's death is something we can all put behind us.
Captain Brendan Darcy.
Please click on some of the
on
videos
your
you see in front of
enormous
you now.
super yacht. You do remember you've got a yacht, right? Well, anyway, look, I don't mean to gripe, but things have been getting pretty hectic on board of late. Thought you might want to...
NBA Youngboy is a rapper. Some of them you can find so today we take a deep look into before we get started, I'm going to give a disclaimer.
With the broadcast.